channel is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on So Many Levels. We're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Woo!
I am Christiana. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I have just realized that as the person who designs the little background layout here, I have made the episode title not align properly. And now it's fixed, and I am also the Dungeon Master. Our players tonight, Mark Kilfoyle as Nedry slash Vertigo slash question marks.
I too am finding myself somewhat unaligned these days.
Paul Fisher as Zinhorn Windborn.
Good evening.
Starla Hutchton as Carolina Swift.
Hello, friends.
And Jenny Meltzer as Zaylene.
What even is alignment anyway?
It is a question that the designers have probably asked themselves a great many times because it's kind of all over the place. You know. Anyway, when last we left our heroes, the Pocket Protectors, they had been diverted from their original path through the roots of Emerald Arboris to the place where they believe not only will they find the last piece of the machine they hope to help them deal with the pillar, but also the densest concentration of the magical creatures known as Siphoners, which have developed a ability to and taste for stealing the magical and life energy out of other creatures. And it has proven to be not only extremely destructive, but also apparently contagious in its way. And this has given everybody a lot of feelings about, seeming like it's not good. However, at the end of our last session, you were approached by a strange wormy guy who claimed to be an emissary from Rachek, Monarch of the New Life, also known as the Siphoner Queen, who had a proposal for you that they wished to discuss with you the possible handover of this machine part you need, and that if you are willing to approach these negotiations nonviolently, you will not be attacked if you do not attack. And you all decided to accept this offer. And so, any questions before we resume our adventure? All right. So, this emissary has is leading the way. Their hood is currently still down because you requested that of them. I think that you get a little bit of the sense that kind of his whole vibe. He likes the cloak, and with the hood and everything. Like it's part of the whole ensemble. It's the fit, and so with the hood down, it sort of it diminishes the brand in a way. Also, super gross looking at this guy's wormy head, but he is doing it nonetheless because of your request. So, as he is leading the way, he is not necessarily continuing to talk unless you continue to talk to him.
Can I tell, can you tell from, looking at him, what race he used to be? If, was this a human person or...
I think that he is certainly humanoid. You would say that probably he does look to be, there's nothing that could rule out human, but you also don't really see much of the original flesh here. Because, as we described more thoroughly last time, dude's got worms on him. He's, this is not just, worms the way worms might eat a corpse. He is just literally head to toe covered with writhing worms. Well, and then a cloak on top of that.
Sounds like an Oogie Boogie situation. Like,
Hmm. You do periodically get a little bit of a glimpse of something that suggests that, like, it is not literally only worms, right? Like, you would not just collapse into a pile of worms. There is some sort of a structure, so to speak. But, yeah, mostly what you see is worms in human shape.
I
I
think
got nothing to say.
in Lynn's head, Vertigo would ask, so do you think this is genuine? That he's trustworthy and the Queen really wants this? Or do you think this is a trap?
I mean, technically could maybe kind of be both.
Hmm.
Depending on how it goes, we're heading to their territory. So, as far as I can tell, they're being straight.
And the way that their flesh looks doesn't make it harder to tell?
Um, no. I was gonna make a crack about, yeah, as a elective in college, I took how to read facial worms as a
It was a Bard college thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say a lot of schools don't offer that anymore.
It's the optional undeath path.
Yeah. I was just thinking, this guy would be fantastic if we go fishing. Oh, come on.
I was looking over my shoulder at a noise my dog was making in the kitchen, so don't take that as a reaction to your joke.
Everyone's a critic.
My first thought was that, like, what if he needs all those worms though? He can't. He's not out there to, you know. Would you offer up your pinky finger as bait when you go fishing?
all of these worms spark joy.
That's right.
They all have names, and
They're like a
No one will notice
collective.
that he's 1,000 worms in a bag suit.
They're like they're like the Get. They're all part of like the Prime collective,
Mhm.
and yeah,
You will be worm simulated.
yeah.
None of that was out loud, right? Because like
like,
But
this
we're all
is when you
thinking
hear in your heads that it's like, oh, I'm actually telepathic. No, just kidding. But yeah, so I think that the outside your heads read on that is an awkward silence as you walk, and
It-
and
Does he?
maybe a dog barking in the background.
uh, I'm wondering about his general attitude. He seemed diplomatic, maybe even pleasant when we met him before. Is that gone as soon as we've accepted, or like is it all business now, or all
Um,
just purpose?
I think that it's a little bit of a business thing. Like, he was sent to deliver a message. The message was delivered, and his next task is to bring you to there, and so that's what he's doing. You could try to, continue conversation with him. He's just not initiating.
Okay. I think that Vertigo's curiosity is kicking in once again, especially with an entirely new whatever he happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd move a little bit further ahead and try to keep more or less parallel to ask him a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been like this? Is this something that you've been like? I don't know how to ask this question because I've never met someone like you that's. Are you undead?
Undead is a oversimplification of my current state. Undeath as you know it from outside is too limited a concept to describe my current state. But there are similarities.
And this has been a long time. You've said you've lost your name or forgotten it. That suggests to me that it's been quite a while.
Not so long as you might think. However, with the expansion of my consciousness granted to me, I perceive the world and its time differently than I once did. And my sense of self is now expanded beyond what it once was.
Interesting. And that is a side effect of being part of this Queen's group?
Indeed.
Did you seek that out, or was that a surprise?
Why do you ask?
Curiosity. I've been examining different modalities of magic and of power, and Dinethir and everything related to it is fascinating to me. It represents something outside of what all typical uh, encyclopedic knowledge tends to conform to. So I wish to know more, that's all.
There are those who take up the monarch's new way simply out of fear of the unknown. They do not know what will happen to them with traditional death, and therefore seek an alternative in desperation. Often, these individuals, because they have no ambition beyond the simple avoidance of something they fear, often find their own consciousness limited by that fear even in their new state. However, those who see greater potential beyond the simple avoidance of death can find that their power grows exponentially, and they can choose a path of specialization as I have.
And what is your specialization?
He holds up the worms. No, it would be difficult to describe to someone who has not tasted the way.
Fascinating.
I would like to make a phone call. I would like to phone a friend and see what my creator thinks of this. Like if I can feel anything like through this that makes me like this is not right, and like this is pretty much everything that she stands against.
Sure. So I guess the question is this just a sense of, are you trying to use your own understanding of the Mistress of the Dark and her whole deal to understand what she might think? Or are you trying to literally commune with her?
I don't think I would commune with her in front of this this
Yeah, no,
guy.
yeah, I was just trying to clarify. So go
Yeah.
ahead and make a religion check.
Religion.
Or for that matter, you can do insight if you prefer. You'll get different information.
14.
Which one was that? Was that religion?
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. I would say short version, she didn't like it. Not one bit. Bad news. That you know already that the whole kind of founding principle of whatever this new way is forceful theft of energy from another living being. And even if they manage to do interesting stuff with it, fundamentally, the power that they are wielding comes from the the unwilling sacrifice of the energy of another being. And this is in many cases done because that being, might join this sort of wildfire of a magical phenomena simply to avoid being lost completely, right? They reach out to draw from something else in order to keep their own energy from being completely pulled away from them. You're getting the feeling from this guy that there's more to it than just that. But fundamentally, that's the basis of what's happening here. And so there's no other source, as far as you can tell, there's no other source. So if they have power, they're getting it by taking it, not from tapping some untapped resource, but taking something that's being used already.
Kind of in the same way that like the undead, like vampires and such, would like take life from people just
yeah,
to continue their own survival.
exactly. And so to the extent that the ones like this guy are doing something more complicated than just surviving by taking from someone else, to the extent that they are doing more by taking more, makes it only worse, not better. And so from the perspective of the Mistress of the Dark, you wonder if there might be some nuance around the edges here and there. Like it's, there are circumstances where you could imagine, or rather, I would say with your 14, you can't help but wonder if there might be some blurry lines around the edges somewhere. But at its core, the basic principle of what's happening here is theft, often violent, of this energy.
Okay.
So your vibe is that the Mistress of the Dark would not like this at all. And that's kind of the impression she had given you when in previous communications, to the extent that you kind of, this came up. But yeah, I think with your own experience too, kind of like sort of seeing the precipice, so to speak, a little bit, you can understand why, especially someone desperate, might, cling to it. And yet you also saw how even corrupted, even somewhat mad, the dragons did seem to still hold on to some of its principles, right? So this is not to say that someone corrupted in this way could not ever do something good, but the very corruption itself is not good, right?
Mm.
So it's, it's a little bit like, a tool is a tool, but this tool can kind of only be stolen.
Okay. I'm going to tuck that away for a little bit,
All right.
and I'm going to be very quiet, like as we're walking.
Sure. All right. Are you continuing to ask questions, Nedry?
Yeah, I think a couple more, at least. So, what can you tell us about your queen? We know nothing, and it'd be nice to understand a bit better.
She is the one who discovered the way, and she is the one who sees the path. She is the one who will transform the world as it is known now, from what it has been to what it will be.
Okay, that's good to have goals, I guess. But were they mortal at one point?
Indeed. But mortal, as I mentioned, with ambition.
Clearly. We met some others, I believe, of your kind. Well, not specifically of your kind, because you seem to be somewhat of a unique and different caliber than they were. But they did not pause for conversation. They seemed instinctual, but not really intelligent.
It is true that many new converts of the way find themselves in places where they are not able to make careful choices about where they seek their sustenance. And faced with what would appear to them to be a ready supply, they cannot help themselves.
So they are outside of the control of the Queen?
There is a matter of degree. Until you accepted this entreaty, she had no reason to hold them off.
But she's able to, even at this distance.
He kind of gives you sort of like a nod to sort of say yes without really kind of specifying in more detail. Those of you who have high insight can make an insight check if you like.
Oh, sure.
Nope.
Because I'm just assuming everybody's just kind of doing that with this guy.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Holy
I normally
crap.
wouldn't be like. Okay, so looks like Lynn got a 30. So yeah, you know that how to read facial worms elective is really paying off here. So your take on this guy at this point is there's a couple of things happening. One is he has been ordered to bring you this message, and if you accept, to bring you back, and he is very dutifully following out those orders exactly as instructed. You also get the feeling that these negotiations are going to break down because his sense is that you are not going to want to accept her terms. And that means probably that you will attack them and that they will kill you. And as a result, although he's willing to say a lot, he is less willing to get into specific details about what her capabilities might be. And so but like I said, this is with a 30, right? This is his opinion. This does not necessarily tell you what the actual queen thinks. This is his impression. However, despite his feelings about it, he is nonetheless absolutely following instructions, which is he presented the offer, and since you accepted, he's bringing you along. You don't get the sense necessarily that he is lying about anything he said, but only what he thinks the outcome is likely to be.
Well, I will use message and pass along some of that insight, probably to Nedry first because he asked earlier if I thought everything was on the up and up. So probably send it his way.
Okay.
Be like, tell the others if you like. Just, it's not that he's lying. It just, he doesn't have a lot of faith in this.
I think the telepathic reply is, I kind of had a feeling this was going to go badly, but it was the most expedient way to get there. I'm just hoping to learn a few things along the way. If you have any other questions, I can work them in.
30 insight.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
cannot
well, I
roll
rolled
that.
an 18, but I have a
Mhm.
plus 12 to insight, so
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, but it's insane.
Yeah. Well, but you also are a highly skilled, high level bard who makes a practice of studying people and understanding their whole deal. Yeah.
You see how
And
all the
also
little
I have
worms lean?
all the other stats that
Yeah.
suffer as a result.
Well, yeah, yeah, you are capable of rolling a 30 because you have a plus 12. You're good at this. So, yeah,
Yep.
it's not unreasonable, but even considering. Yeah.
I think there will be a quick message to Zinhorn and Zaylene um, that Lynn believes that our emissary doesn't think this is going to go well. I don't know when it will go badly, but be on your guard. As always. Something simple like that to each of them. I don't know if he's spoken to um, Melody in this way before. And he doesn't want to scare her. So
Yeah.
he's probably going to rely on her instincts just kicking in at the right time, and we'll keep
Sure.
her safe. Um, there's so many questions that me and Nedry want to ask, but if this is dragging on too long, then I can certainly,
No, well, so speaking of Melody, I think she is tagging along, although at this point she's obviously not leading the charting the path anymore, right? She's following behind. I think that, as based on previous encounters and conversations and so on, she has definitely got a sense of like, well, I did volunteer for this, but boy, she recognizes that this is like way above her level from a standpoint of uh, if something serious breaks out, she'll do what she can, but she will understand that she is probably going to be best suited by kind of trying to stay out of the way and not making herself someone you have to rescue.
yeah, we have to protect her at all costs because it's related to legends. Um, since this is the first representative of Denetherian society that he's actually like of the core society, not the fringe or the rebellion, not the other. This seems to represent potentially that what normal people were like that were outside of the contract makers that weren't rebelling because they already knew. Um, there's that kind of question that bubbles up a bit from Vertigo. Again, kind of stumbling because this is not his area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to ask about magic, but it's clear that this person doesn't really know magic, or at least is magic, but doesn't seem to necessarily understand it and isn't willing to talk too deeply about that consciousness thing. Um, was it always this way for you, or do you remember a Denethir that was different?
Of course, I remember differences. Change is constant. Things are not as they were. Things soon will not be as they are.
But are you recent, or are you ancient? Do you remember when this started?
From context clues and the scale my understanding gives me of your awareness, I would say that I am not ancient as you expect. I was a citizen of Dinuther, and my life has been extended by my transformation. But I am not ancient as you would ask. I have become as I am now. A matter of years, but not decades. And my transformation, my evolution has continued throughout that time.
I must say, you are quite fascinating. Everything here is intriguing.
It is.
Suppose there was a pathway forward? What would that take to become part of this, society?
This is a question that I could answer, but as I bring you now to speak with the monarch of the new life, it would be better, more my place, to guide you to her wisdom rather than to supply you with my own.
I mean, if you don't know, that's fine too, but, all right. And I think you will kind of be
Your attempt to goad more information out of me by appealing to my ego in this way is frankly condescending, and I do not appreciate it.
Oh. Well, it wasn't really meant in that way. I've met a lot of people who don't know what I'm looking for. I'm used to questions not going answered. It's disappointing, but not personally, so.
Your questions, should they be sincere, will be answered by the Queen.
I'll remember that. Thank you.
But
I think he'll.
I will add that if your desire to become a part of the new life is sincere, you will not be denied that opportunity.
Big choices.
I am silently praying now as we like listening to this stuff. I'm just like praying.
What about Zinhorn? What's your demeanor as you make this journey?
I'm suspicious. I'm
No.
keeping an eye on this guy, but I'm also looking around to make sure that we don't get ambushed on the way. Like, it represents something very important that I've sacrificed a lot for previously, and so I'm guarded and slightly hopeful that we can pull this off. But I don't trust him.
Sure. I will say that as you have been making this journey, you have, with your keen awareness, those of you looking around for this sort of thing, have certainly passed by what appear to be, Siphoner, scouts and sort of, figure hiding up in the corner of the cavern there watching, or, others watching from a distance, and they are keeping their distance and not making any sort of an aggressive posture, but you certainly are passing through an area that does seem to be Siphoner territory. And as you might expect as you travel deeper this way, is that even the sort of desiccated, crumbling life forms that you had seen on this side of that bridge are even worse, and in many cases have just kind of crumbled to dust entirely, leaving you traveling more often than not through just bare rock tunnels.
Did he give us any indication of how long this trip to meet with the Queen would take?
He didn't, but I think if you ask him, he will say that it is the space of a couple of hours at this pace.
It's a
I think,
2 hour
back to
tour, huh?
pray.
yeah. Well, I think Melody says that she thinks that he's taking you towards some ancient ruins that were sort of like once a sacred place that had been long abandoned.
Interesting.
And she says it does seem like the sort of place that some sort of an ancient mystical Titan artifact might be, though.
Yep. I imagine that there is one there because that just seems to be how it goes.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Well, I'll, I'll be forthright and straightforward in saying that I recognize that everything that's happening here is outside of my own experience. But I trust all of you, and I believe that you are on an important mission here, and it's my privilege to be able to help in any way that I can. So you let me know what you need me to do, and I'll do it.
If you get scared and you do not want to be out here, just go in the tower.
Okay?
You
Um,
can. It's okay. Like, this is, I'm not saying that you're not capable, but this is some big stuff. And I know that you're probably scared. You've already seen a lot more than you bargained for. So if it becomes too much, don't be afraid to go in the tower.
Thank you. I think, though that you can't be brave if you aren't scared first.
It's true.
So
It's
now I'm
true.
trying to be brave.
You got this.
And I think she kind of, leans in and just says, even despite everything, I'm still really glad you picked me.
I am too. You've been very helpful, really strong.
Thank you. I think this is important, and I'll do my part. All right.
I think along the way, like Vertigo's just trying to kind of put it all together. If it would be permissible, he would probably ritually cast Detect Magic just to kind of further analyze the magical essence of what he's moving through and
S-
see, especially if there's like the black spots that don't match any magic he understands and stuff like that.
Well, so I guess tell me this. I wouldn't normally expect a ritual casting of a spell to be something you could do while walking.
Hmm.
If you want to pitch me on why you think you can do it, then that's one thing. Otherwise, if you want to propose that everyone kind of take a 10-minute break while you do that, that's also fine. But let me know what you're thinking here.
Unless the terrain is particularly complicated, then he would kind of just probably go to Zinhorn actually. I'm going to be a little distracted, but I'm hoping to learn something more. Can you keep me pointed in the right direction? I don't think I'll lag behind, but my concentration will be elsewhere.
See, now I'm just imagining you just like riding his shoulders and just like doing your ritual on the top of his head or
I
something.
was
Wasn't going to
I was
ask for
actually
that,
gonna
but
say, didn't I
Yeah.
used to carry you around on my shoulder like a lot?
I think the only person who hasn't is Lynn at this point.
Yeah. Just, like hop up on my left shoulder so my sword arm is free.
Certainly, and if you need to, just drop me. I'll bounce.
All right. I'll take you at your word.
Um, so I think that once you have this ritual cast, the thing that is immediately striking is how you don't even notice the level of normal sort of ambient magic most of the time when you cast this spell. But what you see now that you have cast it here is it's a little bit like when you're in a forest and then all of a sudden all of the wind and the trees rustling and the bird noises and everything just stop. It's a little eerie. Like all of the just normal background magic is gone here. From this emissary, I believe I think we've touched on this before that you're not getting like I think what you're getting is colors that your normal understanding of the spell doesn't really know how to process because it's not there's a necromantic magic sort of flavor to parts of it, but there seems like there's just also this is new. This is different. It's not the same as other types of magic as your spell understands them. And so you're getting something from him, but it's kind of like, you're expecting, you know, an integer from 1 to 8, and what you get is, mauve.
I think that Zen would feel the gentle but unusual feeling of a flat boarded hat as Vertigo pulls out his book and starts to scribble his theories madly on the paper to try to capture this.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not every day you discover yet another form of
Yeah.
magic.
Well, how about an Arcana check? Because you've studied this a little bit at this point,
Hmm.
sure, certainly, and you have a high Arcana in the same way that Lynn has a high insight. So
Sure. Only a 19, though.
okay, well, even still, I think what I kind of described for you already it's largely kind of a 19 sort of answer already. But what I will say is that you do certainly get the sense that like the metaphor does seem to bear out in the sense that the sort of ambient magic that you would normally expect to be around that's missing now does seem to be sort of like churned and reprocessed in this aura that you're seeing from the emissary here. And so it does feel in the same way that you can look at a table and understand that it was once a tree, right? But a table doesn't look like a tree, right? But you can understand that one comes from the other. And I think that that's the sort of analogy here is that the power is in fact power that has been taken from somewhere and not generated in some other way.
Is it tightly bound or flowing?
Well, he's not actively using spells or anything. This is the sort of
Okay.
gentle residue you would see on a magical creature, right?
Okay.
He's not currently actively casting spells or spell-like effects.
Okay. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, so as you, you don't have a very long distance view here, right? Because you're still underground and you're relying on dark vision, which does give you, those of you with 120 foot, you can see a ways in front, but still, compared to walking around outside, you can usually see more than 120 feet, right? So your surprise in coming across these ruins, there's a little bit of a sort of feeling of a revelation there because you sort of it's a bit like approaching buildings through fog. They kind of come upon you faster than you expect. And you see that there are, in fact, in this region, there are a lot of structures that seem to have been carved directly out of the rock themselves, somewhat like the Petra, in our world, right? These are not, the stones were not like quarried and then carved and then stacked to make these buildings. They were literally just carved in one piece out of the wall. And so in a lot of ways, the layout of many of these ruins is not necessarily following any sort of a normal like city plan because it's based on where the rock walls once were. But you are passing it initially through a corridor where there are smaller buildings that all seem ruins and abandoned, except for here and there where you see like glowing eyes, looking out at you from the darkness. But then you kind of come over a little bit of a rise, and there is an enormous cavern that you can see, laid out before you, where the ceiling ascends past your ability to see it. Might as well be sky, except for it's dark. And then you see, laid out below you, even those of you with no lesser dark vision see some, because there are magical lights here and there, magical flames creating torches in what looks to be a small, elaborate temple city. Again, out of all of these ruins that have been carved. And these, unlike the ones carved into the wall, it looks like this sort of valley city was literally might have been higher before, and it was carved downward in that way. And you can see that there are, whereas some of the other buildings were a little bit more haphazard, they might have started forming, being carved within, natural tunnels. This whole area is clearly designed around this central temple, where you can see at the very core of it is a pyramid that is perhaps, you would guess, maybe like 60 feet tall. So it's not enormous in the way that some are, but that's just the shape of this building, and it has other sort of temple structures around it, and leading up to it directly in front of it is a big plaza that looks like it must have been once used for like formations or parades, or maybe even some other sort of like a martial activity, or I think in some ways it actually even reminds you almost like a sports field of some kind, because there are places where on either side where people could like stand to view what's happening in this sort of central plaza that then leads up to the pyramid temple. And this is the area to which the emissary is now leading you. And it is clear, too, that there are many more of these sort of lesser siphoners around you, many of them looking very much like the ones that you have encountered so far, that are kind of watching you all hungrily, but staying back. Here and there, you do see individuals that seem more distinct from one another, as though they have begun to find their own specializations, as this emissary has suggested, and their appearances are varied. There are, one that seems to have grafted stones to his skin in various places. There are others that seem more animal-like in their features. But as you are brought to one end of this sort of almost arena-like structure, you see that there are two individuals sort of standing centrally located in it. And the emissary is walking up to them, and they are nodding, and then he sort of like joins them as they now collectively address you. And as you are standing there, new magical lights go up around the pyramid-shaped temple, and in front of it, although still in the distance, something like 300 feet away, you can see that there is a big sort of structure where there is a single prominent individual standing up there looking down at you all. But you have been brought here to this place, and I will actually go ahead and I'll show you this. I've got a Roll20 map for this. Let me put you all on it. I've got you towards the top here, or the bottom rather. Let me put this on the stream. All right. So You are, approaching towards the bottom here. The emissary that you've been dealing with, Mr. Worms, is the guy on the left here. And so these other individuals that you now see there are one is a woman who looks sort of very ethereally beautiful and is dressed in sort of slinky silks and is just looking sort of very haughty and beautiful, but with a kind of a gleam in her eyes. And the third is sort of this hunched over individual who looks as though, even though he's standing in the open right now, he's standing as though someone who is hiding in shadows. And you sense that shadows are kind of his whole vibe, because as he looks at you, you can see shadow almost like smoke boiling out of where his eyes would be and his mouth, almost like it's just constantly pouring out of him. And as I mentioned, in the distance, beyond this sort of arena, you see up at the sort of the peak of the, not literally like standing on the top of the pyramid, but, in front of it, up on a sort of dais, is this significant individual who, is kind of in a queen-like spot, if you gather my description here. And so as you approach here, the woman of this trio just says, "Oh, look, they accepted. How wonderful." And the emissary turns back and says, "Rachek, monarch of the new life, I have done as you asked, and the individuals known as the Pocket Protectors have come to hear your entreaty." And he does like a really deep bow, like all the way to like hands and knees on the ground. And I think you notice the woman looking down at him as he does that and kind of just going, okay. Like a little bit of a, all right, man. And so you, as I mentioned, are far enough away, you really can't see like the facial expression of the queen here. But suddenly you hear this voice. It's not in your head, but it's as though it's just coming from everywhere. And it doesn't even sound just like she is speaking from that distance and she's just so loud you can hear it from here. It feels like the entire atmosphere of this cavern is able to speak with her voice. And what you hear is, "Lynn, Zaline, Zinhorn, Vertigo, Melody, and Buster must be hiding. I am glad that you have seen fit to accept my offer of visiting and negotiation. It is my pleasure to host you here, and as my emissary promised, if you do not attack or engage in violence here, you will be safe from me and my children. You seek an artifact." You seek the wheel. And just for, everyone else's, notes, yes, that is the one that you were missing of these various pieces. You seek the wheel, and with it, from it, to construct the somnic filter. But the other parts have been stolen from you. This is bigger than we and you. Your true mission is not here. You simply need the wheel. Your real enemy has the remaining parts and also seeks the wheel. But it is not here because its desire is for you and we, its enemies, to weaken one another before it takes the wheel from whoever remains. My proposal is that we thwart its expectations. We will give you the wheel, and we will aid you in destroying the destroyer. Then you may do with the somnic filter as you like. Our price is only that you do not interfere with our way.
I find your terms, on the whole, to be quite reasonable. But your occupation of the tree is too much. You were contained on Denethir, and I think you must have struck some kind of a balance there with those who lived there. All who lived on Denethir are now free. But Emerald Arboris is vital to the existence of multiple planes and the travel between those planes. And our friend Amethyst is has been sickened by you taking energy from Emerald Arboris. You must depart Emerald Arboris in addition to the terms that you have laid out.
With the power we glean from Emerald Arboris, we would be powerful allies against the destroyer for you. We who were once sealed in Denethir, imprisoned by those who did not understand what we represent, what we can do, what we are, sought to keep us imprisoned, weakened forever. And now that we have been released, we will do what we must to continue our way, to seek our path. It is the nature of all mortal creatures to fade and then to die. Change is the way of the world.
Mm. Emerald Arboris does not just tie the planes together. It also feeds life into other planes. It is a binding force. And if it perishes, so will the planes, including you.
I think for now, maybe we should focus on the battle at hand instead of the longer term situation. Once this major threat is out of the way, other things can be discussed. But there is a greater threat here, and Her Majesty is very correct in identifying that.
As you say.
I understand. Excuse me. I understand your concerns, but your companion speaks wisdom. Your objective coming here was not to deal with us, it was to seek the wheel. We will provide it to you. And the destroyer which you unleashed now threatens more than the World Tree. It has already conquered those that you know as the construct makers and taken their strength for its own. If you seek to defeat it, you will need us.
Kind of gonna look at Zaleen as like, what are your thoughts on this?
You have to get rid of that thing. We can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah, that didn't go so well the first time.
No,
No.
it did not.
Vertigo?
Well, we have to work together. That part is obvious. You've already stated that. If we don't work together, then we partially or completely annihilate each other, and then it takes the rest. So it is of no use to fight us, or us to fight you. But there has to be limits to everything, including you. Maybe not the prison you were placed in before, but the tree has to be a limit. I don't understand you yet. I'd like to. You are fascinating. An entirely different kind of thing than I've ever encountered before. And you want to exist. I understand that part. How you exist and how much you exist. Well, I would not make you in the same position as this great enemy we all face. I would not say that it would be acceptable that you become as it, consuming everything. That's why it's a problem. It has to have limits. We can work together, and we must, as you said. And as Lynn pointed out, well, the future has to be its own thing. A different kind of context to understand what is left. And we can't speak for everyone in the world, of course. We came here to find something, yes. Still here to find something. Maybe we'll find more. An ally.
You speak of limits, but do not offer details of what conditions you would set. The tree is not yours to bargain.
It's not yours either, actually.
It will or will not be ours by our ability to negotiate that through our own way. And it need not perish if it becomes.
And that is
This
a
will
decision.
be the tree's decision and not yours.
Neither yours either. You may be successful, you may not. But I would ask that you not try to destroy things too much. Until I fully understand you, I can't even suggest what limits there might mean.
That
It wouldn't make any
destroy is
sense.
the word you use, is all the evidence necessary that you do not understand us.
True. All I can see is the effect you have on the tree, which, well, it is transformation, but not to life. I don't know what state it's in, but it does not seem to contain any energy anymore. Those parts that are overwhelmed. Tell me they're not dead. Tell me those parts are simply dormant or transformed. Tell me that they are something different, perhaps, then I can understand more.
Does not a tree shed its leaves for the winter? Does
Are
not
you.
a gardener prune a prized bush?
Hmm. Are you the winter? Are you the gardener?
I
Or
am
are
the
you
new
fire that.
way.
Are you fire? Fire can burn a tree, but there's not much left but ashes.
There are trees whose propagation requires fire.
Does this tree
I
require that?
am starting to get the feeling like maybe tempers are running a little high, so maybe we should all just take a step back and a deep breath. And again, going to bring us back to the problem at hand, where this giant, undead, all-consuming blob is trying to kill everything. So, can we focus on that for right now? That would be super. What are our next steps?
If you would seek our help in your battle to come, then you will simply accept our arrangement. We will give you the wheel, and you will leave our realm peacefully. And when the time comes for your battle, we will be there to see that it is done. For we seek to transform, not to destroy. Thus, the destroyer is our enemy as well as yours.
I think that sounds reasonable. Would you be open to, after everything has been resolved, um, official negotiations and territory, all of that sort of discussion? Can we handle that later? Would you be open to that?
I promise nothing beyond what I have already said.
All right.
I think what she's asking is are we going to have to make any kind of a decision now about the future when we don't even know if there's going to be a future?
My question here is, would you welcome an emissary on a diplomatic mission later on to discuss things? And just people fear what they don't understand. And I think it would benefit everyone if we could open some kind of discourse like that. So just for the future, would you be open to that? Just no promises, like we're not talking about like a specific person, a specific time, just later down the road, if you were extended that hand.
The powers of the old world may send as many emissaries as they like.
I don't think we're going to get a better deal, guys. Like, I think we just have to take it or leave it. Actually, can I do, well, how far away are we?
You're pretty far. You're like 300 feet. But you've also got these three sort of, lieutenants or whatever, kind of, they're watching you more closely.
Yeah, I was just thinking about making like an insight check on her, but we're so far away, I don't know that it would do any good.
So you can make a check, right? I will factor in all of those complications.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that like she seems so far that everything's on the up and up, but
Well, yeah. So Um, look, that's a 27. So here's the thing. She's making perhaps a sincere offer that she intends to fulfill because she does, in fact, see the destroyer as an enemy and would like to see it defeated and suspect that you all would have a better chance of doing that if she helps. But part of this also is she wants you out of her way and does not care about the wheel. She doesn't need the wheel. She doesn't want the wheel. She doesn't care about the wheel. She is happy to give that to you. But what she wants is for you to not attack her and stop her from doing what she's doing. That is her first and foremost objective here. And you get the sense that she is absolutely not promising to abandon her attempt to continue draining the tree, and perhaps corrupt the tree. That seems to be her objective. It is what she wants to do and what she is wanting to, the destroyer is what's stopping her potentially from doing that. And so that is her real goal. And so you get the sense that it may well be that if you take her offer, she will do as she says, and she will help you. But in the meantime, they will continue to do what they are doing now. They will make progress on that front. And they are making no promises at all about being willing to back down on any of that afterwards. So it's I'm not telling you what to do, right? It is a tough decision, almost as though it's a dramatic outcome. But from her perspective, you all were coming here potentially with the prospect of fighting her for this thing, right? And she is saying, I don't care about the thing. Take it and go. I don't care. In fact, I don't like the thing you're going to fight either, and that's what you really care about, so let's send you over there instead of you causing trouble for me. And so I think you get the sense that she's not planning to betray you. But also what she ultimately wants, her fundamental goals here beyond the destruction of the destroyer, is really kind of anathema to you. But at the same time, it may well be that you're willing to accept that as a problem for tomorrow once you are able to deal with the current threat. So it comes down, I think, to that. Maybe some sort of another arrangement could be made at that point, but, the clock will continue ticking, so to speak, if they are not stopped from doing what they're doing now.
And even the heroes of legend had similar choices to make, so.
Yep.
I am going to look at Lynn because she's right next to me and just sort of make some goo-goo eyes at her so that she knows I have thoughts that we cannot discuss at this moment. But I think we should take the deal.
I think we have to take the deal.
Nedry?
Oh, I think that part was inevitable. Many things are inevitable. Many things well beyond what we can see.
So are we all agreed? We good with this?
Yes.
Your Majesty, we accept your deal.
Very well. You have chosen wisely, and perhaps in the wake of the victory to come, the new perspective you will gain from the somnic filter will show you a new understanding of the rest of the world and your place in it and there will be no further need for conflict between us. Just from a lore standpoint, I'll point out you've not heard the term somnic filter before.
No, I've
No.
written it down
I-
twice
I-
now, but I,
I
still don't know
was-
what it
I-
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. It's like, did we know that before?
There's a couple of things we didn't know before, and we need to discuss some things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, as you are watching here, you see from next to where she is up on this dais, there is some, kind of another small creature has picked something up and is now coming down these temple stairs and approaching. And as they enter this little arena and pass between the lieutenants, they are holding what you recognize to be a device very much of a similar make to the other parts of this machine that you've been attempting to assemble. It is called the wheel, and it does not look like, for example, the wheel of a cart designed to like roll on the ground. It's more of like a control, like a control mechanism. Like an adjustment dial, but in a big sort of wheel form. So perhaps some kind of a steering wheel, but also almost maybe more indicative of like the handle of an enormous valve, for example. But it is clearly of the same sort of make of the other parts. And they hand it over. Who actually takes it? It's relatively big compared to the others. I'd say the wheel itself is maybe a good 2.5 feet across, and the whole thing probably weighs something like 40 pounds.
I think that we would probably put it in Nedry's secret backpack.
Do
Because
that
it
in front of
would
everybody.
As long as it will fit.
Yeah. It is pretty big. I think actually I'm going to say that it doesn't go. It's too big to fit through the opening of the bag. But you could probably put it in the tower.
Yeah.
Could someone bring it in there?
I mean, it won't fit through the opening.
Yeah, but people do. So, like, if you were holding it and you went into the bag,
Well, no.
Yeah,
could the
that was
magic
kind
make it small?
That's not how the bag works.
If someone swallowed
The
it,
tower kind of works like that, where you sort of disappear in a flash, right? As opposed
Oh.
to literally getting small and going through
well,
it.
I mean, the bag will trap people from just putting their hand in, but
Yes, but the opening of the bag is big enough for a person to go through. I'm saying
Yeah.
this is bigger than that.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
its
like
dimensions
there's no
are
hand.
wider, right? Like it's.
All right.
So if someone swallowed anyway.
No, we can like shrink it in the tower and get the shrink ray back
I don't.
and
Is
take
that-
it in there.
Does it have like a center piece that's got like a place to like mount it like a ship's wheel?
Yeah, sort of, kind of. I think it has sort of
It's got
like
John
a,
Deere written in the middle.
It has like a big plate with sort of mechanisms on the underside, and it would affix to the other things. I think that its shape is such that you could potentially like have it on your back with the wheel like pointed away from you.
I am going to hand my backpack to Lynn and concentrate and have my armor form a spoke to mount the wheel on my back. And turn around and say, "Ladies, would you give me a hand? And I will happily carry this for us."
I'm like super weak. I'm like like super weak.
Can I pick it up and I mean, I'm super strong, so I can put it on my back and just kind of, all right, up, down, which way do I move it?
I'll guide it,
All
even
right.
though I can't like help hold it. I'll guide your arms.
I think it's
so that it
it's a
goes where
little
you
bit
want.
awkward with your wings. Kind of have to be sort of like folded under it. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to fly. Why don't we just put it in the tower?
Oh,
We will when we get out of
we
here.
can do that after we get out of here.
Okay.
We don't want to show all
I was
of
going to
it.
mount it in front of me and use it like a giant steering wheel.
You
So,
kind of look like one of those turtles now.
Turtles.
Turtles?
Turtles.
in what's to come, um, in the thing that we face mutually, how shall we plan for that? Is there a way to communicate? Should we find a large table and draw diagrams?
You will make your plan, and we will be there. There is no need for further direct communication. We will be watching.
So you'll know when the time is right.
Yes.
Okay. Um, as much as I would like to ask a million questions, I think that we have to retire in return.
Are we free to go?
The lieutenant, the sexy woman one is just kind of gesturing like, sort of, be my guest. Go ahead.
Do you feel you can find the way
And
back,
we're not gonna attack each other, right? So if we come up against each other out in the wild while this is going on, we're not gonna attack each other.
If you do not attack my children, says the queen, they will not attack you.
And if they don't attack us, we won't attack them. Just to make sure that both sides of that particular equation
Yes.
is covered.
Yeah. We aren't food.
I believe
We're
that I
friends.
said the part that matters here. They
Well,
will
neither
not,
side
if you
should
do not
initiate the
attack,
combat.
I think we
The-
can just
the part
go
that
ahead
I
and go.
said is if you do not initiate, we will not initiate. What's the part that's unclear?
He's just like that, ma'am. It's not you.
Technically, the logic is
Trust
not
us.
exactly sound, but I understand what you mean, and I'll hold you to the
Just
understanding.
Can I just put a hand over Nedry's mouth and like, thank you so much
Start
for your
walking away.
time?
I think as you are walking away, Vertigo, you hear only in your head the queen's voice say, "And if you wish for a taste of the new way, I will know that as well, and you will have it."
Hmm. Surprisingly accommodating. People say that out loud for no particular reason.
But through Lynn's fingers. He'd be like, "Surprisingly accommodating."
I think, Zaleen, you are getting, I think as you're starting to leave, you're sort of being escorted out by these three lieutenants, right? Like they're just sort of, they're staying close. They're not in like an aggressive way, but they're just kind of like, they're walking you out, so to speak. You notice, Zaleen, you are getting attitude from this sexy lady one. She does not like you. She is like making barely any effort at all to conceal absolute, like, just loathing and disgust for you. She's not
I
saying
just-
anything, but boy, you can tell.
Yeah.
I would like to kind of slide up in between the two of them. It's like, so I understand you all have your own like unique specializations. What would yours be?
Is that something that you would even begin to understand?
Well, I don't know. If I don't ask, I'll never know.
This has been my point the entire time. You've been listening. You understand me finally.
This is not the sort of thing easily explained. You, I am sure, are capable of your own powerful magics. If you were asked by a child how they work, what would you say?
Well, that's not exactly what I meant. So there was another person in the throne room that seemed to have a an affinity, I guess, for shadows. There was the person who saw us here had a completely different
Those
thing.
two are here too. Like they're all
Hmm.
3 walking you. So like
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, I would just like point them
Mhm,
out then.
mhm. Yeah,
It's like I can't see anything like I'm not getting any like visual hints here what your specialty is.
well, I would urge you to consider the differences between their appearance and mine and think about
She's.
what that might
Mhm.
mean if we have some degree of control over what we look like.
I think I see what you're I think I see what you're getting at.
When I began to explore what sort of power I might glean from this new way, I decided for my own self that I did not want to be covered with worms.
It's a valid choice.
And you know, she's just like not even doing a no offense, buddy, back to the emissary.
Did you
I'm
also
getting like
lose your name?
succubus vibes here. Like I,
Did you also lose your name?
I have a name. It is not for you.
No, that would be my name.
It is
He
not
doesn't
for you
even
to
know his
know
name.
my name.
I suppose I do want to know your name.
What would you give me for it?
It's not that valuable.
names are valuable things.
Names are changeable. Names are labels. True names, that's something
Yeah.
different.
I'm feeling a little nightshade right now.
Well, for what it's worth, I think the form that you have chosen is very pleasing, and I can understand why you've chosen it.
You have good taste.
Yes, she does.
She literally gives you like a high school girl.
I don't even notice. I'm like oblivious.
Mm-hmm. So.
I'm just thinking about like blessing Nedry so that he stops thinking about death
Mhm.
in the worst way imaginable.
So I think that as you are escorted back to the outskirts of these sort of ruins, there is once again in you know the air around you and not like telepathically, you hear the queen saying, "When the time comes, I will be there." And then when you kind of like turn around just to see what like the lieutenants are doing, you realize not only are they gone, but you don't see the ruins there anymore either. It's like you're just in a completely different tunnel.
Hmm.
Nice. All right.
Someone has a little bit too much control of the tree, I think. But
Shh.
first things first, we take care of the blob.
I think we need to
I think
retire
we
to some
need to.
privacy for discussions.
Yes, I
Yes,
agree wholeheartedly.
I agree.
Well, Melody,
Um,
lead the way, because I
Yeah.
assume we're going somewhere now else.
We'll
Well,
have to go a different route because there's a bridge missing.
we might. Well, yeah, we are. I'm actually just, you know, we were somewhere and now we're somewhere else. So it's going to take me a minute, but we were kind of guided to go in this direction. So I figure let's keep walking in this direction and get as far away from those things as we can, and then I will figure out where we are.
okay,
Could just return. That is still possible.
with the gate spell.
Hmm.
Hmm, I don't think we need to do that. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's somewhere else that we need to go. Like, I think we should hold that in reserve for like a in
Where
case of
else do we
emergency.
need to go?
Well, where was our next destination? Was that Dinethir?
That was, I mean, we could use the gate to get to Dinethir because we need to go there anyway.
I think technically we were just there, in the edge.
Yeah, but we need to go there and retrieve something important
You're not
that
talking
got
about my
left
spear. I
behind.
mean, I got a new weapon.
No, no, I'm definitely not talking about your spear.
Okay, good. Because, like, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
no,
mind getting it back, but I, I have
no,
another weapon. I'm good.
no. I'm
D-
thinking of something else.
Okay, well, let's get further away so we have some privacy.
mhm. Something else that we should probably think about too for uh, where we want to go in Dinethir is the revelation that the contract makers uh, have already been,
Blobbed?
yeah, recruited.
Technically, I believe they're called construct makers, but the both names actually fit quite fluidly.
What did I call them?
Contract makers.
Oh
Contract.
yeah.
I
This
think
has
you're
been,
Y'all
thinking
knew what
about
I
the
meant.
people from.
you know what? They might as well. They're the construct contract makers. We yeah.
The construct makers.
They're constructed.
So
Yeah.
I thought the queen was implying that the blob annihilated them.
No,
No, it sounded more like corruption, transformation,
working together, that kind of
overwhelming.
thing.
So, what she said was took their strength for its own.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's sufficiently vague, and it didn't feel like she was going to give much detail.
Hmm.
But we should report that back to any of the others who are investigating things.
Yeah.
We have a
Yep.
number of things to discuss, though, that I would prefer we have some privacy for.
Yeah, definitely. Um, how far, like, are we walking as we're having this conversation? I'm
I mean, I
assuming that
would
we've
assume
been
so.
moving.
I would say unless you want to be having it after having already traveled some distance and made a camp.
Yeah, because we're at least well, I don't know how many
Because I had
hours
the
away,
feeling
but
that you were wanting to be, put some distance before you really got into
Yeah.
it, and so that's fine.
Mm.
We can say
I-
that you did that.
at
Okay.
least far enough that we're outside of the obviously corrupted area.
Well, sure,
Yeah.
and so you can definitely do that. What else? You were not interfered with. Although there is the additional element though of her suggestion that she'll just know when the
Mhm.
time comes.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily
I have a
clear
plan
how
for
private
that
you
too.
would be,
Yeah, so do
regardless.
I.
But
I kind of have a plan, so I'm hoping it will work.
Mm.
But once we set up camp,
Mhm.
and we're ready to start talking, before I do this, I want to know what would happen if I use anti-magic field in the tower. Like, would that affect the tower, or like, because we do magic stuff in there all the time?
Yeah, I think that it would certainly interfere with some of the internal things. Like you may recall that the kitchen floor has like an invisible wall sort of thing in it, for example.
Yeah.
Like it would interfere with that sort of stuff. You think that as long as you didn't interfere with the main door threshold, you're probably good. But I will basically say that it is guesswork. That you
Yeah, I'm
think
not gonna risk
because
it then.
essentially what the tower does is create a demiplane, and you could use like the demiplane in and of itself is not like it is magically created, but like once you're inside it, the space is not inherently magical. But the method of maintaining a bridge between the material plane and that demiplane is. And so if you were to interfere with that, that could be a problem.
Okay, so I'm not even going to mess with it. I will just create an anti-magic field around us outside the tower so that we can hopefully like block out anybody who is like magically watching us, spying on us, listening
And
in.
once we're inside, I can only really do this for the first floor.
We're outside.
Well, once we're inside. Or are we going to
Oh,
meet
in the
outside?
It sounded like she was talking about
Yeah.
having the conversation in the anti-magic field outside.
Outside?
outside because
Okay.
I don't want to mess with it because I don't know. I would have to talk to Ruben.
How big is your anti-magic field?
It is 10 feet, like a 10 feet circle around me. So we can
Okay,
all
so
just kind of
pretty
sit
tight
huddled in
then.
a little circle. Yeah.
Then, with the usual sigh and rolling of eyes, Vertigo will once more, politely, if somewhat reluctantly, thank Solomonia for the gift and cast Private Sanctum within the inside of the anti-magic field.
Oh no, it will.
It won't
You
work.
can't
Oh, it
cast the
can't do it
spell
inside that, right?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
So it's going to have to be on the outside then. But his
Yeah,
effect won't.
that's
won't
why
ha-
I didn't want to do it
Its
in a
effect won't
tower.
last on the inside, so it's not going to work at all.
Right. So we would have to just sit outside in that 10-foot space.
I don't know if this is necessarily going to have the effect you might think it does.
I mean, you can do your. What were you going to do? Like your
Private
sanctuary?
sanctum, what I've used to protect us from being scried upon, seen, heard, anything.
Then do that.
Well, it won't work with the anti-magic field.
I didn't put it up yet.
Oh,
You're planning your
we're like
many
having.
means, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you think that will work better, then
So-
go for it.
The properties it has, and I can have as many of these, and I'll have them all. Sound can't pass through. The area appears dark and foggy, which means you can't see through it, including dark vision. Divination spells can't appear inside the protected area or pass through the barrier. Can't be targeted by divination spells when inside. Nothing can teleport in or out, and planar travel is also blocked.
Pretty good.
Um,
Wow, I'm looking at this. Is only 4th level spell.
it is, and it lasts for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But it takes 10
Is
minutes
it one
to
of those
cast.
ones that if you do it like every day, it'll permanently be
Yes.
there? Nice.
But you got to do it for a year, I
For
think,
like
to
a
do that.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
I love
actually make the
those.
space bigger with a higher level spell slot, apparently.
Yes. But I think with Solomonia's gift, I can only cast it at the base level
Okay.
because I'm not using a spell slot.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not quite as tight, I can make it up to 100 feet on each side. So it can be a fairly. We will not be cramped inside the box.
Okay.
I think
Works
this will
for
help.
me.
That anti-magic shell is extraordinary, and I think it's going to be very tactically useful. But I think in this case, this might be the more preventative. I would suggest, however, that if any of you have come in contact with any of those creatures, you take a moment to cleanse yourself of any spores, of any material, goo, anything that might have come in contact with them. I have a feeling that there's something more plant-like in their nature. Maybe after they absorbed part of the tree, or perhaps, I don't know. I like the concept of total knowledge, but I'm not sure if I like it used against me.
Prestidigitate.
I think it could help.
Lynn, can you do that?
I can, yes.
Thank you.
But I won't.
Could you wash the stank of that girl's eyes off of me, please?
Now, I think in here we can talk as freely as we will ever be able to do. Some additional protections could be offered by strengthening our minds against intrusion or against any hidden suggestions, but I'm not sure if that's warranted at the moment.
Yeah. So here's my thought. We need to go back to Denethir and get the Diamond of Infinite Facets because I think we're going to need it.
Technically,
need
it's in
it.
the water.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We know where we left it.
Okay.
We can go back and get it because I have a feeling that it is going to be incredibly useful. And the fact that we kind of just left it behind, it's been bothering me for like 3 days because that's probably how long ago it was that we left it behind.
It's been a little bit longer than that.
Okay, like 5 days.
Hmm.
It's been bothering me since we left it. like we went through hell to get it, and I think it could be really useful, especially against these creatures.
Even at its base abilities of being able to see a glimpse into the future, that might be critical. But it's a component that might be somehow combinable with these others if they were all from the same source or something. Magical artifacts is not
No,
really my base of study, but I'm learning quickly. But
I
yes,
don't
I
know. But
agree.
I also think that I know that it was difficult to agree to this deal, but my thought is if we can take out the bigger threat, it protects the people that we may need to help us later against this threat.
Well, I think it's I think it's threatening everything. A queen would not make that kind of an offer if she didn't believe it would lead her, otherwise lead to her own destruction.
Hmm. I'm talking about like if we can protect everyone else, we can help, our entire network of allies keep them alive by getting rid of this thing. Because I have a feeling it's going to take that many people to stop them from what they need to do.
We
That's my
also,
thought.
I don't know how long we'll be able to stay in any one place. Um, Clearly, it's able to discover where these things are, and we have the last one. So it will come for it. We'll have to be on our guard. I still don't have any idea how we might defeat this thing. I've already been defeated by it once, and I don't really want to feel that powerless again.
I had this feeling that if we could just do enough damage to it fast enough, that would help. But that was before it got a hold of all the other artifacts. Who knows what it's capable of now?
I think that that's another good point, that whatever we have that's important, we should definitely not keep it all in one place.
And we should probably make use of this if we can. If it has any use to us, I'll have to study it to see
What
what
did
it
she
does.
call it?
A wheel?
What did she call it? A
Some
filter?
some
Somnatic?
Somnic
A
somnic
filter.
dream?
yeah, somnic
A
filter, that's
dream
it.
sleep filter.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that refers to. I've never run across that term before.
Well, I mean, everything with the nightmares, it could come in handy, but I got the impression that she wants us to use it because whatever it does is going to be to her benefit.
Her her suggestion was that it was a way that we would see things differently and come to appreciate her point of view. I'm not
Yeah, that
sure
to me
what that
sounds like,
means.
to me, that sounds like you're going to do something so terrible that it's going to be to my benefit.
Maybe.
Well, I'm looking at it like how when we went and saw Kosh, he explained kind of how this device would change your perspective so you can see things differently. So I think
Hmm.
that's maybe what
Hmm.
she was referring to.
Maybe.
So much like Kosh appeared differently in that mirror, the reflection looked very different than what was before us. So I think that's probably what she's referring to. Like this device will have a similar effect that you'll be able to see both sides of something, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there for that whole experience. So, yeah.
I've just linked you the magic item for the wheel.
The wheel.
Hmm.
Ooh, it's a two.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's different powers, but similar to the all the other ones, in the sense that it has kind of its own abilities. But
So presumably there's been some time to study this and kind
yeah.
of come up with these. This.
Hmm.
All right. Well, on its own, it has some interesting abilities. Uh, hmm.
I mean, that would be great for someone who can't fly. On a
Um,
whim. I
so
mean,
I think Melody is just kind of saying, I everything in me was just telling me that that queen is, I I I generally try to avoid just using stark terms like evil, but like I don't know that she's not telling the truth about what she's planning, but it's only that like if you felt it wasn't the right time to try to do something, I wasn't going to start anything, but I my stomach is turning at the thought of doing anything that she wants.
so this thing that we are going to fight is beyond your imagination. It is a giant, everything sucking monster that wants to devour endlessly. It will never be full. Now, I know she is definitely evil. I will say that. But right now, there's like no black and white here.
Although there is someone who might have something. That, um, Faye?
Oh,
With the knife. The one that imprisoned the blob the first time. If we could retrieve that artifact, it seemed to have an effect sufficient enough to at least stop it, if not destroy it. But
Hmm.
Do you mean the Yugoloth with the ring?
that's what I was trying to think.
That
Because I was
guy.
going to
yes,
look through my
that
notes. And it's like,
guy.
Yeah.
God, I don't remember it because that's been a
Mhm.
while.
Yeah.
the
It was
demonoid.
like 2 days ago.
Gone through a lot. I was dead. I came back.
I know.
Mhm.
Yeah, that guy.
But that artifact might also, or if we found this device may be an artifact of sufficient power to do something similar. I'm not sure if, in fact, this thing can be destroyed, only contained, which is disturbingly close to what the Denetherians failed the first time. Also, the Queen is a Denetherian, and that means that all of the magic, all of the power that she's derived, is likely from the same sort of unbalanced, um, corruptive, and one-sided nature of all the other magics we've seen there.
do you think that Rupino knew that that thing was there? And that was why he created the giant destruction device?
Um, as brilliant as Rupino is, I think that his sight was a little more limited than that. It was desperation, it was corruption, it was um,
Well,
desperation, I
if you
guess.
mean the destroyer, remember that it wasn't on Denethor. It
Mm,
was it was
yeah, it was in the plane
elemental
of
plane of
slime.
slime. Yeah.
yeah.
I just meant
Although something like it
they.
is
I
very
wonder
much what
if they
Rupino
knew
was
about it.
worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. I don't know. There are so many people that we have that could help us with all of this, and like I know we don't want to ask probably like 90% of them. Like we could probably ask for Solomonia's help, but I don't want to do that.
No, you'd
I
rather
know Lynn
ask
doesn't
the
either.
Siphoner Queen for help.
Yeah, I'd rather be like, listen, listen,
I mean,
evil.
at least we know what
Yeah.
she's up to.
The evil you understand
Yeah.
as opposed to the evil you're just not quite sure about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Says the disciple of the Queen of Air and Darkness. Talk about misunderstood.
Uh,
I know that this is not right. Nothing about this is right. Um, all I can think of is like those they're abominations.
I'm equally concerned as to how the the massive abomination managed to take over or take the power of the construct makers. I was still under the impression that it was further away than that, but if it's that close, just at the other end of the island,
Maybe it's some kind of like, maybe it's not physically there yet.
maybe they made a contract
Does
with it,
it
I
have
suppose.
does it have like controlling mind powers?
I can try to figure that out, and
Based on
Or-
what you
Didn't
kind
you
of,
bond with it?
well,
yeah, that's
so
then that's
recall that I obviously it was something that was a struggle for any mortal mind to fully process. Um, your impression, Vertigo, from having oh so briefly been a part of it, was that it is going through an evolution of its own. What it once was more or less mindless, right? Like it was nothing but this primal hunger, right? That is its fundamental nature. It's really all there was to it. But as a part of absorbing you and taking all of these other Titan artifacts that had their own sort of power and their own sort of will to them, transformed it in a way that its hunger is a little more abstract now. Its hunger can be expressed in ways beyond just consuming everything, right? It can be a bit more like, for example, ambition, right? It has taken on and made part of itself the desire of those machine parts to be assembled into a whole, the desire of that machine to work for its purpose, and the knowledge that Vertigo had about all of that. And it has synthesized all of that into its own primal nature of hunger. And to hear the Siphoner Queen tell it, it sounds like it is now capable of advanced tactical planning.
so imagine that, but only much more long-winded with a number of asides. Uh,
A bunch of questions.
lots of questions that he can't yet answer.
10 minutes to write down stuff in his journal every half hour.
Pretty much.
In a way, in a way, it's searching for purpose, which might be ultimately one way to negotiate with it. In a way, is to give it purpose. If we were,
Kind
for
of
example,
purpose.
to give it direction toward the fallen Titan weapon, it might annihilate that. I don't know what
I
that means, but
I was kind of hoping we could use it that way. Like but I think it wants the Titan's weapon for itself to like annihilate everything.
an interesting question is which is more powerful, a fundamental urge or a fundamental idea?
I remember one of the things that we were told at the beginning of all of this was that the nightmare energy was kind of overflowing, spilling into other places.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that this is a good idea to do this. Like, I have no idea what the consequences would be, but maybe the blob can eat all of that extra energy. Like, that seems like it would make it more powerful, but I mean, kind of solves a problem that we have.
Well, in a way, it
This
might
whole thing
bring
is so ridiculous. I don't even know.
You know what
it
I'm
might
reminded of is the line from the IT squad, IT crew,
IT crowd.
IT
IT
crowd.
crowd, where it's just, well, I'll just take this fire and put it over here with
Put
the
it
other
over here.
fire.
With the other fire, the rest of
Yep.
the fire. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, on a philosophical level, it might represent balance. If it is true consumption and the power is true production, then maybe the two of them would balance. And remembering that the Dimitheran power is really, well, depending on which of the flavors that we're really dealing with, it's really about wish fulfillment. It's about producing things with no cost. And that imbalance is what's caused most of the problems to exist. I don't yet know how the Queen's own imbalance works into this. She seems to believe, and all of the others around her espouse this sort of new level of existence, a touch of consciousness beyond the mortal, which is intriguing, to be fair.
It's it's not.
But
I mean, it is, but it's not. And I need to tell you all something, and I need you to help me not do it again. But I was kind of messing around, playing with things I shouldn't, trying to see if I could understand it, and I sort of got real close to the edge of that. And it is very enticing.
I think I know at least some of what you feel.
Hmm.
Yeah, I figured you would.
How did it happen?
It, I was using a spell that I use all the time, and it actually acted similarly to what they do. That, you know, exchange of power. When you hit them, you use like the necrotic energy to take life back for yourself. So it was more about life than taking power, but feel I could feel it, how easy it would be to do that.
Certainly, the debt that these poor creatures have incurred means that this is the only way that they can live. In fact, that might be a better way to think about it. It's not that they take power, it's that they're trying to fill a hole, something they've dug for themselves.
Hmm.
I feel like when we were in there speaking to the queen and her lieutenants, it seemed different. Like they had gone beyond that point of just being a bottomless, gaping wound that's just like a black hole sucking in all of the energy. It feels like they've kind of, they are that, but they've turned a corner and are evolving in a way
Yeah.
that we can't quite figure out yet.
Like the
But here's
construct
the
magic
thing.
makers.
Here's the thing though. Like it's like a tick. You can only suck so much blood out of a deer before you pop. How much has she taken? How much has she got in her? And how much more can she take? Is she going to self destruct because of it? I mean, she's given these other people like Worm Face or whatever his name was, like these new abilities and these new powers. But what about the people who haven't gone that far? You know, what about them?
I'm not sure it's about distance so much as about figuring out the trick. Like the construct makers, they figured out how to harness this in a stable way, and the siphoners have done something similar, but in a different way. I don't know how they've struck that balance with the construct makers. It was constantly shifting around the debt to others. With the siphoners, I feel like they are connected. The way that the Queen was aware of things that we said in the presence of Worm Face suggests to me that they're in communication. But even
Like a hive mind?
like a shared entity, that they share responsibility, except for those on the very fringes who have no ability to share. They don't know. Well, if we talk about wish fulfillment, maybe they don't know what they want. Or the debt was taken from each layer like a giant pyramid scheme, much like the construct makers in that way. Queen at the top, all the minions close to her, then themselves taking power from other minions who then scrape together whatever power they can just to live, transferring most of it up the chain.
Yes. Because all of those ones that we saw initially were like weak,
If you've had
just
a
sucking to survive.
if you've had a taste of this power, you too might also be within her um, roots.
You think she can keep track of us through me?
I don't know, but it's something to consider.
What if she's just tapped into the tree and can follow us this way?
Also a possibility. But the fact that even outside of the tree, her claim that whenever we call, she'll be there also worries somewhat. Hence the precautions I've taken here just to try to at least provide some level of protection or solace, if not actual success.
I mean, I think it's also possible that they're just part of the shadows. Like they're physically there and are able to trail us. I don't know. It's a whole new world. It's exciting
It's true.
and also kind of terrifying, but yeah.
Also true.
I
Yeah.
was going to say, you're being a little too chipper about that.
I'm trying
I
to
know
look
that's
on
your
the
nature.
bright side of things because if I don't, well, I don't
You'll
want
end
to
up
think
like
about
me.
it.
Lynn, I wonder if your heritage actually provides you with some level of connection that you can exploit. You are,
To her?
well, not
I don't know about
necessarily.
that.
You are, well, a descendant of the Denetherians. If there's
Well,
anything
the
unique about,
magic that inhabits me is yes.
well, that might be enough to at least consider some opportunity to use that, or at least to defend yourself against the influences. It might be worth exploring somehow.
Or maybe it makes me more vulnerable to it. Maybe the
Also
first
worth
time.
exploring, though. You've never seen any, or never seemed to have any particular vulnerabilities to the magic that we've exploited, or we've faced off against the nightmares and so forth. I
It's
mean,
mostly just been like things that were shiny,
yeah, I was gonna say wisdom
really.
saving throws, yes, but not the
An
true
intelligence
bane of
saving
Shiny
Lynn.
throw.
and
Come on.
distracting.
Or a strength saving throw. Con save. That's I'm sunk. I have a very special set of skills.
Yes.
It may
Anyway.
also be necessary to let the rebels know that the construct makers are even more dangerous than before.
They might
Can you
already
send
know.
them
They
a-
might have
Yep.
more information.
It's true.
That's a
They
good
might
point.
be gone.
Yeah,
Like
they
they
might have
might
been
even
eaten.
actually be gone. Can you try to reach out to them? Like with a message?
I mean, yes, but we're not on that plane, so it may or may
There's
not
that
work.
10% chance it might not work.
I mean, there's
And
a
with all of the magic in the tree being kind of what it
Wonky.
is, yeah, the odds of it going awry are, I think, probably higher. But like, I don't know.
we can check in when we return back to the material plane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, aren't we going? Where are we going from here?
I mean, first we have a pickup stop in the middle of in the water,
Yes.
which will put us on the material plane.
Have we considered, maybe I missed that part of the conversation, but how are we going to get the items that we left out in the middle of the water? Because we don't have a boat.
No,
We
but
could go get one. I mean, we could go get the crabaratus.
oh
That's a
no,
really long way to bring it,
It's
though.
no.
no, no,
No,
no,
that
no.
was in
Absolutely not.
mainland, not Dinethir. Like the
It's on the other
Crabaratus
side.
was, yeah, it was mainland Sakamian.
Mhm.
We can actually open a door to it.
I
And just
mean, it
retrieve it.
wasn't too far from Emersham that you
Huh?
left on your original boat trip to go open Dina there. It's not that far.
Yeah, I didn't have a mental map of like where
Yeah.
this is because I think
So
we got there from some other plane, didn't we?
recall the
No.
geography of so Emersham is sort of on the little continent of Sikamian as we know it. It's sort of on the southeast coast, and from it's a port city, and traveling south along the coast takes you to the Temple of Marushka, and it was
Right.
from there that you left out into the water to get to where you placed the diamond.
But
So
And
we can
so
totally use the crabaratus.
So
we-
that is Emersham is in fact almost the closest part of Sekamian to Dinethere. It's part of why, as you heard, the construct makers made their first landing there and made their first sort of initial offer to the people of Emersham.
we can open up a door directly to the object, pluck it out of the water, and then go on our way.
Okay.
Can you?
Yeah, the gate spell
How?
can go to a precise location on another plane.
I guess I keep forgetting these 9th level spells are powerful.
Damn
Well,
us and our
yeah.
power.
I only get the once, so
Yeah.
um,
At least we're not like creating keys and plane shifting all over the place like those heroes of legend were always doing.
hey, you just find
Gotta
a
make a
convenient
key.
hole and dive through. What do you need a key for?
Yeah.
But beyond retrieving that, I'm not sure where to go next. We do need to check in with allies. We do need to let people know what we've learned.
Yeah.
They may also have some information for us. They were sending out scouting parties all over the place. Some of them may have
could even
reported.
be lost.
I suspect with the dangers many have.
Yeah. Hopefully Sunya is okay.
We can check in with our friends. But then we have to hit the road again.
Yeah.
If the creature has come in contact and is now controlling the construct makers, that might be a place to investigate what's happened. And it might be a vulnerability that it's introduced if it's taken on some connection to mortal beings. That would also... I have a feeling that wherever we go, there's the chance that it will come to us, seeking out this last part. So in a way, we can try to stage our own battleground and wait for it to come to us. But it could also destroy a lot of things in the meantime. But if we go there, then it's most likely going to just stay there. And we can call in for those reinforcements, as dubious as they are.
I think we need to shrink the wheel down. Make it pocket size so we're not advertising it as we carry it everywhere we go.
Turn it into a brooch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does somebody want to attune with it?
Ugh.
I can, but
I
not
don't know.
permanently.
I have to look again.
Well, the one other thing that I'll say about that is that if you change the size of the wheel with the tower, it would need to be changed back before it could be assembled with the other parts.
Right. I figured. I just meant like just to carry it around so that we're not drawing attention, mostly. Would still be able to attune to it though, like while it was shrunk down?
I think yes, but I'm going to go ahead and lean on the part of the description where it says when it's not in the fully assembled machine, its results can be unpredictable, and suggest that that's perhaps even more true if you start altering its nature.
Okay.
So the short answer is yes, but if you do that, I'm going to take some dramatic license to potentially increase its unpredictability.
We could leave it in the tower, but that also means the tower itself is potentially vulnerable to the blob's searches.
Oh, God, I don't like that. I know it's not my tower, but I don't want it to get eaten.
It already
Kind of
did
grown
once.
attached to it.
It's
Yeah,
not
but I mean, how are we going to get the blob to puke it back out?
It's not pleasant.
Oh. Yeah.
And,
So, do we want to take a rest before we go to retrieve it, or are we just going to go forth and get the diamond?
I mean, we're going to need some recovery time. Where we choose to take it is the question, really. It'll take us too long to leave this place if we're going to go over a route. Take a different route.
What if... No, that won't work. I mean, we took a boat when we went to Dinevere. What if our boat is still there and we could just take it back over to the Temple of Marushka?
Weren't we swallowed by a mechanical creature?
Were we? I don't remember.
Not swallowed. A big sea turtle construct came out to rendezvous with you as soon as the bubble, as soon as you came through.
I don't know. I'm not logical. I don't know these things. All I know is that we need to get to Diamond.
I think we need to have a few days to figure out where we want to go next.
Well, what we could do perhaps is, fade out as the pocket protectors make their plans, and assume that we will rejoin the party when perhaps they have gotten a night's rest and will know where they plan to head next.
I would like
so
to
many
think
clues.
that I would like to think that Zaleen will actually take a lot of time to try to connect with the Mistress of the Dark.
Okay, great. Yeah.
To try to like cleanse herself of this evil that she's let herself touch.
And see, in the opposite direction, Vertigo is going to spend some time in deep chat with his ring.
All right.
I'm just gonna be looking at both these guys like it's not one of them.
At least I don't have a shadow friend anymore that I carry around with me.
All right. Well,
shadow guy.
What fate awaits the pocket protectors as they look ahead towards perhaps the end game of this whole adventure? Well, we'll have to find out next time when we return for more adventure on so many levels.
So many
So many
levels.
problems.
Many
So many levels.